Let's be real, life is messy. We all wrestle with loneliness, guilt, and shame.
Having a supportive community and the right resources can make all the difference.
That's why we started Healing Unscripted.
We're just three friends on a mission to bring hope and healing.
Whether you're struggling yourself or walking alongside someone who is,
we're diving deep into the hard stuff.
With insightful guests, real talk,
and a whole lot of heart.
Join us on Healing Unscripted.
Hi, guys. I'm Liana.
Hey, I'm Jen. Welcome to Healing Unscripted. I'm Laura.
And we have James Bakehouse with us today. He works for NRT Behavioral Health. His official badge says he is Community Relations Representative. This is a sister company.
NRT is an umbrella company over the Foundry. It's the parent company.
Parent company to the Foundry. So that's what we're going to hear about today. But first and foremost, we want to hear more about James.
You're on.
Hi, James. Now you're on.
Hey.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, I live in Glenwood Springs. I was actually born in Florida, but my family came to Colorado at 1 year old. Oh, am I tapping already? She told me this was going to happen. I said, I don't tap. Grew up in I grew up with my dad. My parents split up at an early age. In fact, I don't even remember them being together. I was pretty young when that happened. And at 4, I went and lived with my dad and my stepmom. So dad, stepmom, 2 sisters, and myself. Normal childhood. Didn't grow up wealthy, but didn't grow up poor. I didn't have any wants for anything. It was just a normal childhood. I liked to play outside and get into all the stuff that young people did. In 1982, we moved to Carbondale, Colorado in the Roaring Fork Valley, where I went to middle school. And then 6th grade, my parents don't even know this, but I'm going to tell you this.
Tell it.
It was the first time I was ever introduced to alcohol. It wasn't the greatest experience. Some friends of mine, we broke into Dad's liquor cabinet and found a bottle of Wild Turkey.
Oh.
Didn't know what Wild Turkey was.
Right.
I know that it smelled like turpentine, but we made some Kool-Aid up and...
Kool-Aid and Wild Turkey.
Yeah, 6th grade, 12 years old. What do you know?
Right.
And I drank my probably 24-ounce cup. And then the friends of mine didn't want theirs, and I commenced to finish theirs. It hadn't hit me yet, but when it hit me, it hit me. And I remember this. So this was the first experience and many, many experiences, most of them nefarious, of my relationship with alcohol. And little did I know back then that the consequences of my alcoholism. We had moved to California in 1986, so I went to 1 year of junior high school out there, and then 4 years of high school. And the friends that I am still friends with to this day, but the people I gravitated to were the kids on the other side of the tracks, the kids who had a one-parent home where they didn't have rules and they got to run amok. I wanted to run amok with them. So my sophomore year into my junior year is the first time I really drank, and I absolutely loved it. I loved the feeling of the head change. I loved the feeling of the burn going down my throat. I have to touch on something, because I know a lot of people get started with drugs and alcohol because they need an escape from whatever they're trying to escape, whether there's bad stuff going on at home, or if it allowed them to be a little more outgoing. I never had that problem. I wasn't shy growing up. I liked the effect that alcohol had on me, plain and simple. I wasn't abused growing up. There was none of that stuff that can down the road possibly lead to somebody abusing drugs or alcohol. I didn't feel like I had any of that. I just liked the effect it had on me. After high school, the only thing I wanted to do was get the hell out of my house. I had a stepmom who, as a teenager, we started growing apart. I didn't like a lot of the things that were going on at my house. I didn't like the fact that I felt like my father took her side a lot. And there's a lot of things I've learned about my own traumas that maybe I didn't realize I had back then. So drinking was an escape. I didn't have a horrible home life, but I did not like an individual in my house. And so when it came time to leave home, I'll never forget, my dad took me my senior year and he said, my family calls me Jamie. So when I talk about my dad talking to me, I'm going to use the word Jamie. He said, Jamie, you're graduating in March and I'm not ready to lose you yet to go off on your own. And he said, would you consider living at home and going to the local junior college up in San Luis Obispo, Cuesta College? And I said, absolutely not. As soon as I graduate, I'm out of here. And looking back at my life now, I know that everything happens for a reason, but I wonder what type of trajectory I would have been on early in my life, in my adult life, had I listened to the old man, sucked it up, had some more freedoms, after 18 and gone to junior college. I didn't choose that route. I thought I knew what there was to know about living life. I didn't want rules. And everything that my father had tried to tell me as a young man went in one ear and out the other. Now, as I've aged, I've found myself many, many times trying to remember all those points of advice Dad gave me.
Little nuggets.
So living happily ever after outside of Dad and stepmom's house was not to be for me. I came to Glenwood Springs with two of my friends. We graduated, and I had a 78 Ford Econoline van that we packed up, and we hit the road one way, Colorado. Here we come. So a lot of my time when I first moved out to Glenwood, were spent being locked up. I was in and out of jail all the time, and I hadn't gotten to the point yet where I looked at alcohol as the main reason while things weren't going good in my life.
Tell us some of the things that got you in jail.
I was curious about that too.
We need some snippets.
Well, the first time I was ever arrested, I was walking down Grand Avenue with my buddies Taven and David, and we had been drinking tequila, and a guy yelled out of his backseat of his car something derogatory to me, and I caught him at a stoplight. So I went up and punched the dude, and he called the police. So there were a lot of disorderly conducts. There were a lot of MIAs. And then I got arrested for the big one. At 19, I took 2 checks from my mother. She had started a secretarial business called Busy Beavers. Secretarial, I know. I never understood that name. I don't know. Maybe it's Colorado in the mountains.
Right. Just shows you that I'm really a 12-year-old on the inside.
Oh, I think we all
so
are.
funny.
You hear that. I found out about the extracurricular activities that go on in Aspen, and there were lots. And there was one specific one. People like to party up there, and with other things besides alcohol.
Yeah,
So,
cocaine was huge.
Cocaine was huge, and it was really
Weed,
good
weed,
in
cocaine.
Aspen.
Well, it was all because I grew up here in the 90s.
Yeah.
Mountain towns. I mean, that's what it was.
Yeah. So I decided that it would be a good idea to take a couple of checks from Mom.
Busy Beaver.
Busy Beaver.
Okay.
Some busy beaver checks.
You couldn't wait to say that, could you, Jen? She was really holding out for the story to come back around.
I'm 12.
So
We're changing the name of our podcast, by the way.
to Busy Beavers podcast.
We're pretty busy.
I just realized that I'm talking about an arrest record, and I'm also going to be promoting my job.
This is you.
This is your story.
I know, but I don't know if my job 32 years ago.
Gives you credibility. You got street cred.
I took 2 checks from mom and cashed them out at City Market because I had worked there as an 18-year-old in Glenwood Springs, so I knew the management and I knew they wouldn't ask questions.
Yeah.
Well, mom, bless her heart, knew I was running amok in the mean streets of Glenwood Springs. They're not mean. And wanted to kind of teach me a lesson. So she pressed charges. As soon as I went to jail, she dropped the charges, but the district attorney picked them up, and they charged me with second-degree forgery and theft because I took something that didn't belong to me. Can't blame mom. You do the crime, you do the time. And she didn't know what to do about her 18-year-old son. And so I stayed in jail for about 63 days. She bailed me out the day before Thanksgiving. And through the court proceedings, I got sentenced to probation, but I also had to go to a 21-day inpatient treatment, residential treatment center. I went to a place in Grand Junction. I cannot remember the name of it. 32 years ago, I don't even know if it's still there. Swore up and down I was done. Like, this has opened my eyes. I'm in here with 40-year-olds that have been to jail and been to the Bakehouse, and it was, it should have been life-changing, and I should have taken everything that was happening to me as very serious. But what did I do? There's 3 rules in sobriety. You have to change the people, places, and things.
Yes.
And so when I was done with my inpatient treatment, I went back to Glenwood Springs. I started hanging out with the same individuals who I'd gotten in trouble with. They never got into trouble. It was just me. And I started doing the same thing, meaning I was doing drugs and alcohol. So 2 months after being released, I caught 3 dirty urinal analysis for alcohol, marijuana, and cocaine. And they sentenced me to Department of Corrections at 20 years old and braces on my teeth.
Wow.
Yeah. They asked.
That's Denver, or is that Grand Junction from over there?
What?
Where did you have to go for that?
I went to DRDC, which is Denver Reception Diagnostic Center. From there, I went to CTCF, which is Colorado Territorial Correctional Facility in Canyon City, to their old Cell House 5, which is...
So you remember the names of that, but you don't remember the name of the facility that you had to go to for your treatment?
rehab?
No,
Okay.
I don't. Of course I
It was more
Yeah.
impactful.
Yeah, I guess so.
There's a lot of treatment centers out there. And 32 years ago, I remember where I was scared every single day and having to fight a lot, but I don't remember the name of the treatment
They
center.
try to get you healthy. Yeah.
Right. They did get me healthy. I just got myself unhealthy.
Yeah.
After I got back out. And then I went to Buena Vista, and I was in medium security. And again, I had changed places, but not the type of people and not the things I was doing. It was more drinking at this point, but there was definitely substances involved. It seemed to go together. When you drank, you kind of want to take it to that next level and ingest some substances into your body, and I did. Back and forth to jail, disorderly conducts. I was living in this paradise. I was unhappy, though. I didn't know how. So this is when I started thinking about all the advice Dad had given me about life, living life on life's terms. I had absolutely no clue how to live life on life's terms. I hadn't been on a lease. I couldn't keep a job. When you're a young person, anybody who has spent multiple years in the disease of alcoholism probably has worked several different jobs in several different fields. It's just part of the deal. As you get older, you start to realize that these good opportunities are fewer and far between. But I wasn't thinking about that. And, I was living off friends. I was living off women, if I'm being honest, and just not doing what I should have been doing. I didn't know how. I really did not know how. Different dead-end jobs, a life of mediocrity, absolute unhappiness, even though I wore a mask. And I'm naturally, innately a happy-go-lucky guy. So even as, and it's a lot easier to see on the outside looking in than it is from the inside looking out. People could look at me and know that my life was a wreck, but I was living this. It was a lot easier for me to get lost in the bottom of a bottle of booze than to take that first step. And they say, every 1,000-mile journey starts with a single step. I didn't know how to put one foot in front of the other, and I didn't know how to stop. I don't know if I was ready to. That's a big ask of somebody to tell them, or to ask them, do you think you have a problem with this? And me, and also you got to understand my father. I love him to death, and he's probably going to see this one day. But he's very old school. He was the kind of dad who would slap a Band-Aid on it and call it good, So I never wanted to believe that there was something seriously wrong with me. And I tried to find out, why do you drink, James? What was unhappy in your life? What made you want to mask this? Because there comes a point where you can shut down the bars 5 nights a week, but it's not fun.
Yeah.
Drinking isn't fun. When you're a cocktail at 5 o'clock on a Friday for most people is good, and that's enough. But if you're somebody like me, you hear the saying, as cliche as it is, one is too many, 1,000 was never enough. And that was the deal with me. I would say, all right, we're not going to drink today, right? And then by 5 o'clock, the sun is going over the Pacific Ocean. People are having a barbecue. We got to do it all again. And I just didn't know how to live my life without alcohol. It was unintentionally everything that went on with me, whether I was camping, if I was going to a show, if I was going to dinner, everything revolved around it. Wow. And I just didn't, it was a scary proposition to know that if I really want to live some type of fulfilling life, the alcohol could not be part of it. And I knew that. I knew that many, many years before I got sober. It just couldn't, not a little bit. If you're familiar with the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, they talk about the different things they tried, switching from gin to just beer, only drinking on the weekends, not drinking while at work. I did all those things. I had to try every excuse to, what's the word I'm looking for? To justify my drinking. I'm not going to drink until Friday. It just doesn't stop. And as we all know now, I think they've known this, Dr. Bob and Bill probably knew this from the get-go. It's a progressive disease. So things don't just get to a plane and level off. Right. The tragedy gets worse and worse. And that's what I found myself with. I was not happy with who I was. I was in toxic relationships. I didn't know what a healthy relationship looked like. I'm still trying to figure that out. We'll get there in a minute. But everything was just, it revolved around this spirit that decimated me. It was my Achilles heel that I just didn't know how to stop. I knew I had to if I wanted to live. I knew I had to if I wanted to find some meaning in my life. I knew I had to if I wanted to have something that was healthy and beautiful and worthwhile, because alcohol never takes the problems away. We try to fill this void with substances or alcohol abuse, and instead of maybe it's temporarily, we don't think about the task at hand while we're under the influence. But more often than not, it compounds whatever thing we're trying to escape. And really, the only real way we can do this is by doing it head on and inviting everything that comes along with getting sober and embracing recovery. because putting down the drink is just a tiny aspect. You have to work on you. That's what recovery is.
Yes.
Sobriety is putting down the drink. Recovery is recovering from the person doing the work. Faith without works is dead. You have to put in the work. And that was a big ask.
It's scary.
It is. And the unknown was scary. And I still deal with the unknown. And that's another thing about addiction. It doesn't want us to win. It wants to kill us.
Very good point.
It doesn't matter what your skin color is, your socioeconomic status, what family you come from, what your intentions are. Addiction is a disease that wants to destroy. And that is the bottom line. I had this epiphany. You hear it. There was no judge hanging any jail sentence over my head. There was no girlfriend giving me an ultimatum. Their parents weren't threatening to disown me. You hear it talked about in the rooms about being sick and tired of being sick and tired. That's a thing. I'm here to tell you. It gets tiring being loaded and not doing anything and living in a realm of mediocrity. I didn't want it. And I said, you know what? It's time. I have to give it up. I want more than what I've given myself up to this point in my life. I came from a good family, musical family, writing family, all these artistic things that I thought lived in me. And there had been some brief moments of artistic creativity over the years, but I'd really never applied myself to what I consider God-given talents. And I wanted to bring these things. I wanted to serve. I wanted to be good for people. I wanted to be something healthy to be around. And I wanted to be proud of my life. And I hadn't been for a long time. And I'd look in the mirror every day, and I didn't like the person I saw staring back at myself. So I got sober. Didn't go anywhere. Didn't seek help. I just said enough. And I quit cold turkey the first time. Yeah.
That's kind of dangerous, though, right? Yes.
Yeah, but when I quit that time, I hadn't been putting copious amounts of vodka in my body. It was mellow drinking. And we're going to talk about that because there's a huge danger in quitting without medically supervised detox when you put the type of alcohol in the amounts that I usually did. I like to say past tense, into your body. And I've done it that way too. And that's no bueno.
My husband did that. He quit cold turkey and he didn't have any physical side effects from doing that, but it's the mental illness and the mental health stuff that set in from just going cold turkey with no support, no community, no nothing.
Yeah. Well, there are both. So there's the physical aspect. If you are somebody who, and I like the word copious because that's the only way I can describe the amount that I would drink. It was insanity. But there's also the mental aspect of it. I don't know, like your husband's story, but for me, the times that I did detox outside of the hospital, because the last couple of times I drive my happy butt up to the hospital and say, I need to medically detox right now. But there were times that I was ashamed and I didn't want to go to the hospital. So I'd lay in my bed for 10 days and not sleep and in the darkness and afraid to show my face because I was absolutely sure that everybody knew what was going on inside my house. Nobody knew. You know, this is all the makeup stuff. And when I would drink, you know, I wasn't at the club having a good time. Doors were locked, blinds were drawn, and I was alone with my misery. And that's the way I wanted it to be. And the only time I would leave my house would be to re-up at the liquor store. So 2016, I said, I've had enough. I want to try recovery. I want to try embracing a life of sobriety. So I got sober. And in 2017, I got my first job in the field of addiction at a place called J. Walker Lodge up in Carbondale, Colorado. Anybody heard of it? It's a beautiful treatment center founded by a guy named Bobby Ferguson about 18 years ago, maybe 20. A men's program that embraces all the beautiful things we have in the Roaring Fork Valley and implements that into treatment. I am a firm believer that recovery and getting off drugs or alcohol doesn't have to be gloom and doom. In fact, it should not be gloom and doom. It should reintroduce people on how to live and have fun doing it. And so Jay Walker kind of incorporates that lifestyle: skiing, trips to Moab, hut trips, it's kind of bougie.
Adventure stuff.
Right. But, guys want to do that.
yeah.
Nobody wants to sit in a room with a counselor for 8 hours a day or a therapist.
Talk about their feelings.
And so that was my first. I got hired in January of 2017 with them as a residential tech. And it was the weirdest thing because I'm 42 at the time, 43 maybe. 44, excuse me. And I had found my niche. I was home. I was like, holy crap. Like, I know what these guys are going through. They might come from different backgrounds and different families, but I get it. I get the struggle. And I made the decision back then that this is what I want to do. I want to help other people get back to a life worth living. Now, that being said, I thought I wanted to be a counselor, and I still kind of do. And I've done that. And my degree program and the program I'm at CMC is a degree in human services with an emphasis in addiction studies. So I get all my CAS, which is Certified Addiction Specialist through DORA, curriculum done within my degree program. Anywho, I started working there. I fell in love with it. I saw the way the counselors were interacting with these men who wanted a different life. And I just wanted what they had. And I wanted to be able to help people. So I made the decision, this is the field I'm going to work in. Another thing I've learned about working in recovery is if you're not an active participant in your own recovery and you're not doing the work, like you said, it's a slippery slope. You cannot become complacent in your recovery because going back to old habits becomes easier. And that's what happened to me. So after 2 years of working there, 2 years of sobriety, I'd never even had a year before I got sober and started working there. And now I'd reached 2 years, which is like, holy crap. 2 years and 3 days into my sobriety, it was a Saturday night. I was sitting with my beloved Gracie, who passed away a couple of years ago. And I said, Gracie, what do you want to do tonight? And like a thief in the night, the thought came. This is how powerful alcohol is. 2 years into it, it wasn't really working a program, though, because I worked
At a program.
Which is another rookie mistake that people make when they start working. And you can't make your job your recovery. You have to have your own thing going on. And so I was complacent. I was showing up to work every day. But what kind of work is James doing for James? What kind of self-care?
Do you think that a little bit of pride kind of sets into when you're working around these people and you're like, gosh, I remember when I used to be there. Gosh, I'm so far from that. Like you kind of get proud and like.
I absolutely think that's a possibility. Yeah. Subconsciously, you're not that person anymore.
Yeah.
And you
kind of relish in the accomplishments and how far you've come and rightfully so. You should be able to.
Well, there's a lot of mistakes that I feel I made, and I think that is very easy for somebody who goes to work in the field of recovery. It's complicated. And especially if you're a clinician, you're getting accolades from these men that you're trying to help. So they're inadvertently boosting your little ego. Like, you made it. I want to do what you're doing.
Can't wait till I get to where you're at.
So one of the biggest lessons that I had to learn was how easy it is to blur the line between a staff member. I wasn't a clinician. I wasn't licensed. I wasn't anything. I was a staff member then. And client. Because you are rooting for this person to succeed so much that you don't draw that line in the sand of the relationship that is proper to have. So things are easily misconstrued. You have to take that fine line where I support you, but we're not friends, right? And that was the biggest mistake I made. I had friends that were in treatment that I shouldn't have. But I was so new to it, and I was so excited to be working in this field amongst men that I understood, who understood me. And then someone died. So this is the flip side of recovery that doesn't get talked about enough. Not everybody wins their battle with addiction, especially with fentanyl. Blues weren't the thing back then that you hear about today, people smoking those blues. People were getting heroin that were opiate addicts or heroin addicts that had fentanyl in it and going back out after they'd been in treatment for however many days. And if they did step down, whether it was sober living or IOP, and they go out and use and they die. And that blew my mind. And they started dying a lot. I've lost probably at this point since 2017, close to 30 people that I knew, worked with, or supported as a fellow traveler, as we call them, somebody who's in recovery doing the same thing. And thank God that never gets easier. It doesn't. You don't grow a callus where somebody's passing doesn't affect you. They all affect you, and they all suck. And yeah.
Is that all? That was all confirmed from fentanyl?
No.
Pretty close?
I'd say 85% of them. There were some suicides. There were a couple people which I'm going to talk to you about in a minute, tore their esophagus and bled out, which is common in chronic alcoholism. Yeah. But a majority of them, a couple guys bought some coke and snorted a line and dropped dead. Because it's in everything, guys.
I know, but fentanyl has it been around since 2017? I have no idea.
Yeah.
I didn't think it had been around or that common.
It wasn't.
Until
I had never
maybe
heard of it.
5 years ago.
Well, in 2017, while working at Jaywalker, I heard about these two guys that lived in Blue Lake, which is Elgibel, if you're familiar with the Roaring Fork Valley at all. And they had bought some drugs, some cocaine, and they died. And then, it got back, there was autopsies done, and they found fentanyl in these people. And I had never heard of fentanyl. I knew what heroin was and other opioids and oxys. What the heck is this fentanyl thing? And these people died? It was big news in the Roaring Fork Valley. People had heard about it already in the city, but it hadn't reared its ugly head in my little small community. And then it did.
Yeah.
And then it was game on. And then you're hearing about it all the time. And I'm still hearing, it's what I've done. Before taking this role at NRT, that's all I did. I worked with individuals who were addicted to opioids, and all of them were fentanyl. There was oxys were no longer a thing. People aren't even doing heroin anymore.
No.
It was fentanyl.
Yeah. My brother died of a fentanyl overdose, but he started with crystal meth.
Okay.
Which is so crazy because fentanyl and heroin are so different from crystal meth, the different feelings. So crystal meth, then he went to heroin. And then, the oxys, and then the heroin, and then the heroin's no longer strong enough, so he went to fentanyl.
Right.
That's how he died.
I'm sorry. I don't know. You might have told me that. I don't know if you have.
No, that's okay. It happened a couple of years ago. But yeah, it's dangerous. It's there.
It's absolutely awful. And
So
to your point, I feel like it really started becoming more known within the last 8 years. And within the last 5, and especially the last 3,
Oh yeah,
populations have been
everywhere.
decimated. It's everywhere.
Yeah. But now people are making it. People are making their own pills and pressing their own pills at home and it's not even calibrated anymore. So I mean, people are
so
taking
dangerous.
it one time for the first time,
One
taking
time.
one pill and dying because it's just too strong.
Well, now we have it's graduated. So fentanyl isn't even the worst of the worst anymore. It's carfentanil. Have you guys heard of carfentanil? Carfentanil. So carfentanil is a type of opioid, but it's an animal tranquilizer that people
Yeah.
are using. That and another thing called xylazine. So xylazine, actually, maybe xylazine is the horse or the animal tranquilizer. I think it is. Xylazine, Narcan doesn't work on. So if people are taking xylazine and overdosing on that, Narcan, you have to get them to a hospital like ASAP. So what we're seeing is these drugs are being manufactured and they're getting stronger.
Yeah.
And fentanyl, I mean, I just read a statistic today. There were 80,000 deaths in 2024 from overdoses from opioids, which was a 27% decrease from 2023 when there was 110,000 overdose deaths in America.
And what do you think is behind that?
I'd like to think because of places like ours and education behind addiction and the substances that people are getting. I mean, we're well aware of what's out there, what's taking people out. It might not be fentanyl, it could be alcohol, but I'm part of several different groups, opioid response groups out of Delta, Gunnison, that we're educating people on the dangers of this. And Narcan is being more accessible by more organizations, even if they're not in the field of addiction.
Right.
They're offering that. So I like to think that there have been.
I have a Narcan little kit in my car right now that we got from that movie, the documentary. And we were stopped at a table afterwards and they were just handing out a bunch of stuff. And I was like, what's this little kit? And they're like, oh, there's, what is it, Narcan? Narcan pen. And they were like basically an OD kit. And I took one. I took one for my daughter to carry in her car.
Yeah.
It's sad.
It's really smart. They're super easy to use. It's just a plunger up the nose, and that can both nostrils, and it can bring someone back. So, I like to think with education, with providing things like Narcan, and just getting the word out, people are catching on. But a person who's sick from dope doesn't care about that. They just want to be well again. And like if someone's addicted to fentanyl or blues and they take an oxy, that's not going to help them. So they have to keep taking this thing that kills so easily just to maintain. And, I think that's the benefit of a lot of these MAT clinics, medication-assisted treatment. It's a maintenance program.
Right.
People take it either Suboxone, or buprenorphine, which is Suboxone, or methadone, which is a liquid form. But it doesn't get them high. It helps them not be deathly ill. And they can go out and work and function without being sick all day.
And then that decreases, doesn't it? Like once they maintain on that, they can decrease that.
They can. They can either stay where they're at, they can go up in dose, or they can go down. It's up to the individual. I like to see them going down. I like that it's there. It's saving lives. It's maintenance, but I like to see people get off of it. But I want to also, as somebody who works in this field, to be able to meet them where they are. That's the most important thing. If they're not ready to get off of it, but there's something out there that's going to possibly save their life, and not have them using fentanyl as often or as much as they would normally do, then okay. But I think the end goal should be abstinence-based recovery.
Right.
Personally speaking.
So you talked about doing education out in your field.
Yeah.
What is your primary role?
So my role with NRT and the Foundry is community relations representative, Western Slope for the business development team. Now, That essentially means my job is I was lucky. My predecessor, a few predecessors before me had established all these rapports and relationships with different community partners on the Western Slope. Now I've added some to my stable of community partners, but essentially my job is to maintain a steady pipeline of referrals for my treatment center. Keep people coming in that need it. And if it's not a good fit for them, whether it's RTC, which is a residential treatment center, whether it's IOP, VIOP, virtual IOP, PHP, partial.
What is IOP?
Intensive outpatient
Okay.
program. So somebody will come into IOP like the Foundry has in person at the Alpine Center right here in Steamboat. Well, they'll come 3 nights a week, meet in person for 3 hours, have groups, individual counseling with a clinician, a therapist. And a lot of times people can't leave work to go stay for 42 days, which is the average time. I'm going to go into this in a minute about my organization. And so IOP just seems to be a better fit. It gives them the freedom to go about their business, take care of things they need to take care of, and then still get that clinical piece and helping them hopefully arrest any substance abuse disorder that they might be dealing with.
Right.
It's just not as intense. I mean, it's called IOP, intensive outpatient, but it's not like residential where you're programming most of your days.
Right.
2019, been at my place for 2 years. I have 2 years and 3 days of sobriety. Life's good. And all of a sudden, I want to drink. And I had never been hit with a sensation of how good a nice buzz would feel stronger than that night. So I laid in my bed for 30 minutes. Not going to do it, James. Don't do it. I couldn't shake it. Should have prayed or done something, but I didn't.
Or called someone or reached out.
So that's another part of my story that I think is important because you have to talk to people. But and Dad, I love you if you ever watch this, but because I was used to that slap a Band-Aid and call it good, I didn't want to reach out to anybody when I was hurting or not feeling strong or when I wanted to F all and just send it. Mm-hmm. I couldn't call people. I couldn't tell them that. And I think that was a big contributor to my setbacks and my bumps in the road and early sobriety because I didn't know how to tell people I'm not doing well.
Yeah.
Which you have to get over. That's another thing that has to shift. You have to reach out to folks.
Mm-hmm.
So I went, and this was my plan. All right, I'm going to go to the liquor store. I'm going to get a couple shooters of vodka, a couple 24-ounce tall boys to chase it. And then I lie to myself on the way home because that's what we do. We lie to ourselves. I'm just going to put them on my dresser. I'm not even going to put them and keep them chilled in the refrigerator. That way I won't want them. Oh, my God. Come on, James.
Man, after 2 years of not drinking anything.
Yeah. So I was feeling pretty lovely. Nice little head change. Next day I woke up. How do you think I felt?
Not lovely.
Not good at all. And so what do people do after they
drink.
A lot of people
chase?
say, yeah, you need to have another one because it's going to make you feel better.
Where's the
hair of the
It's
dog.
The hair of the dog, yeah.
Yeah. And so it was December 30th. So it was New Year's coming and I knew I had Monday off and I was like, I'm good. I can drink one more day and then I'll have Sunday and Monday to recover. Well, Sunday came and again, I was feeling like crap. Monday came, Monday I had off and so I'm drinking like 4 days straight at this time, just a hot mess. House is already looking like a frat kid on a Sunday. If you can imagine that.
Yes,
I can imagine that.
Tuesday comes and I type in, I can email in, I'm not feeling great, I'm not coming in. Wednesday, I try to do it again. I get a knock on my door and I have this little 1-bedroom house with one way in and one way out. And the people aren't going away. They're like knocking. And then I hear, James, I see your truck parked in front of your house. I know you're here, dude. And I recognize the voice. So I stealth mode, go from my back bedroom up to the front door and move the little blinder over the window on my door so I could see who was at my door. It's the director of operations and the CEO of my company at my front door. And I had two choices. I said, I can let them in and they can see what I've been up to for like the last 5-6 days. And I had consumed a lot of beverages at that point, or I could just not answer it. And I know I'm going to lose my job over this. So I opted. Don't answer
Don't
the
answer
door.
it. That's what I was going to guess.
Yeah. So they finally went away. And the next morning there was an email that said I had been terminated.
Oh, avoidance.
Yeah. So
Avoidance.
they didn't give me I'm kind of mad because they didn't give me the opportunity to go to rehab or anything like that. They just let me go, which I understand. You work in treatment, and
What do
if
you
you're in
think would have
recovery,
happened if you'd have let them in, though? Would they have looked at it?
they
and
would have
probably-
had an intervention on me. And I was not ready or in any state to have that. So I said nope and allowed me to go back to poisoning myself.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. So I saw the email.
So you rolled with it?
I rolled with it. I was like, well,
Not
I'm,
in the ru-
I'm
no.
fired now, so I'm going to really send it now.
You're gonna, yeah, there was a bump, and you're going to keep riding that bump all the way.
So I drank and drank and drank, and February 19th, yeah, maybe I am good with dates.
You
Yes.
see?
Wow. Yeah. I can't even tell you what last week was. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Well, I only know this because I ended up
It
in
is
the
a big
hospital.
deal.
I'd been drinking vodka, chased with beer, probably not eating anything. And I was sitting at my coffee table on my couch one morning in between swigs. And
So are we talking like 6 weeks?
this
like a year?
happened.
2 months now. We're going
No,
2 months
well, so
now. Oh, yeah.
December
December
30th,
30th.
February.
19th.
yeah, I think I got sober once at the end of January, but then by February I was
Dry
drinking
January.
again. Yeah, so kind of
Dry
Dry
January
2 days.
times
It was more of a damp January. So I was drinking. I had my bottle. You know, have you ever drinking like hard liquor and kind of giving that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but not thrown up, but just get that dry heave. Well, that was happening to me all morning, and I felt like I had to throw up. So I went to the bathroom to go ahead and throw up, and instead of vomit,
I
it
know where
was
he's going.
all blood. So, fun fact, when you tear your esophagus, it bleeds into your stomach, and your stomach doesn't like blood in it. So it gets rid of it.
Yep.
So this happened for every 30 minutes for the next 3 hours. And I thought I would,
This
Get
is one
ready
of
for
the,
the
waited
picture.
3
I want you to
hours?
show them the picture.
this is one of the scariest things ever that I had learned about in nursing school. and when we
you're an
did
RN,
the,
that's right.
yeah, so when we got to see some of the scopes, one of the nurses was like, do not ever drink so much that your esophagus will tear open because you will bleed to death and
Yeah.
die.
Yeah,
And I was like, I did not know that that was a thing.
and I didn't either. And chronic alcoholism, and it also can happen on the backside too, in your bum.
Yeah.
So luckily that didn't happen. But what had happened was every 30 minutes I had to throw up. And if you guys want to show it, if you want me to
I want
show
you to
it,
show them the picture. Yeah.
it looks like somebody was dismembered in my bathroom and there's
Right.
clots of things I don't know. So after throwing up all this
'Cause
blood,
it's a large bleed.
it is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of very
Vascular.
around your esophagus.
It was,
And it's kind of like the pressure from all the scar tissue in your liver.
yeah.
The pressure of that, it comes back into your veins and your arteries that go up. So basically, the pressure from the scar tissue in the liver, all of a sudden they get tender, and then they're going to get
Rupture.
thin,
Mhm.
and then they're going to rupture.
Yeah.
They've just had enough. They just can't take the pressure anymore.
That's so incredible.
So anything, it's not like he ate something and it broke. It was the pressure from the scarring in the liver.
The chronic alcohol.
Wow.
It's almost like have you heard of aortic aneurysms that can
Mhm.
happen? I
Yep.
feel like it seems
You
to me
guys,
it's kind of the same.
Yeah.
right?
Show them.
So
I want to
yes.
see. I want to see the reactions.
Were you even trying to make it in the toilet? Is all I'm gonna
Not
say.
after a while. I just had enough.
Wow.
Oh my word! I
So
wasn't
at one
expecting
point
that.
you were like,
Do you wanna see it,
maybe
Grace?
that's a lot of blood. So
what happened? And the
Like,
only
this
reason
is
I'm
insane that this has come from his stomach.
I know.
Isn't
Yeah.
that amazing? I mean, I'm just so glad
That
you're
looks something
alive.
from a
Yeah.
very
So what
scary, scary
happened
movie.
the last time I threw up, my bed was 10 feet away from that, and I didn't have enough energy to make it to my bed.
Yeah.
So I laid down outside of my bathroom on the side of my bed. My poor dog Gracie, bless her heart, she knew Dad was in distress. So and I laid down and I said, this is it. This is how I go.
You were gonna go into shock if you didn't go into shock.
The scariest thing though is I was totally okay with it. I was peaceful. And I was like, this sucks. I'm sorry, Mom and Dad. But I knew I was gonna die. And Gracie, God bless that dog. She was an angel. She, the most docile, beautiful, gentle dog ever, came over and started violently nudging me. Like, get up, and did this for a good 5 minutes. And I was like, Gracie, leave me alone. And finally, something clicked, and I called 911, and they came and got me and carried me out of there because I couldn't stand anymore. I'd lost so much blood. So the last time I drank, I decided that this was too much. I had tried and failed, even though I never embraced the idea that recovery just wasn't going to work for me. I was just discouraged, I think. So I went out to this stone bench that's out in front of my house, and I asked the man in the sky to, I always have to laugh and look at Liana because I don't know why it's tough for me to say this. I talked to the universe and I said, listen, I can't do this anymore. Let me go, as in, like, let me die. And mind you, I was probably still under the influence of alcohol, so I wasn't 100% in my right mind.
But you didn't feel good.
I didn't feel good, and it was more mentally and emotionally than anything else. I said, or remove the phenomena of craving from me. I don't want a drink anymore. And I know that that's a big ask, but I can't do this. I can't keep going back and forth, taking 12 steps forward and 15 back.
You were tired.
I was tired. I was sick and tired of being tired. So all of a sudden I felt this, I had to sit down. My knees got a little weak. And I sat down on that bench, and this warm feeling started in my stomach and just extended over my whole body. It was just the most amazing, beautiful, delicious feeling I'd ever had. And I found myself starting to cry. And they weren't just tears. I was sobbing. And I just really felt that even though I didn't ask for it to happen like this, I knew deep down that everything that didn't serve me, that I had been holding on, that probably was the void in my life that started all my abusing of alcohol and other substances. Shame, the defeat, the failure, just all these things were let go of me, and they were taken out of me. And it was almost like a rebirth. Like I don't
Made
want
new.
Well, yeah, I became a born again Christian as a young dude. And even though I'm not at church every Sundays, that was something that was instilled in me. And I felt that's kind of what was happening to me. Like I was just being healed of everything that was hurting me. And I have not looked back. I haven't had a desire to drink when things have been great, when things have been shitty. it's just not even in the equation anymore, which is, I mean, I've never had that. It's always been in the back of my mind. Like, if things go south, we're going to send it. That's my go-to. If things don't work out the way James wants them to work out, that's a good enough excuse, because that's all it took. I mean, the sun could be shining, and that was an excuse to drink, right? And since that moment, I just had a new, I can't even really, for somebody who loves words and knows how to talk, when I describe that and try to explain the shift that happened in me, it's almost impossible.
Right.
It's just something supernatural happened. Yes. And I have not even come close to, I go into the liquor store to get a, what are those energy drinks? It gives you wings.
Red Bull.
Red Bull.
Yeah, because there's a liquor store a block from my house, and it's so great to go in there now and have the clerks know that I'm not in there to buy booze. I'm getting instead of going all the way to the grocery store, if I want to walk around town and have a little energy drink, I'll go in there. It doesn't faze me. And I know, I cannot become complacent.
Right.
I still have to put in the work. But I feel something major happened in my life that night. And it has kept me on this path that I'm on. And since that night, also, beautiful things just keep happening in my life. And I'm recognizing them, and I'm allowing them to happen. So we'll talk about, real quick, if I can, there were stints. I started in the treatment field, in the addiction field, in 2017, and I had to step away a couple times. One, all of them pretty much were when I relapsed. You can't really help people if you're not well.
Makes sense.
So I had to take menial jobs or just different jobs. I don't want to ever say menial about anything. But through this and keeping myself diligent in my purpose and what I'm doing, it's allowed me to grow within this field as well, which is crazy. Working in the treatment field is a nutty occupation. I'll tell you why. It's one of the only fields I know where it's almost a prerequisite that you have to screw your life up for several years, somehow get it back together, and then you are deemed worthy to go help others.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean,
You can't walk into that and be some perfect Pollyanna.
And I'm not knocking. There are a lot of clinicians that aren't in recovery, and they're amazing clinicians.
Sure.
Some of us had to go the long route and find our way home in order to be able to help. And I am fortunately one of those people. Everything that I went through, I don't look at it as, oh, why did this happen to me? Man, who would have thunk 30 years ago that the experiences that I had to go through, that I initiated, would end up serving me down the road in order to help others get out of the dark and back to the light. And I'm thankful for everything that happened to me, because it made me the man I am today, empathetic, resilient, understanding of other people's plight. And why I don't counsel at this time, I still get to help other individuals start their journey in recovery. And I think that's what it's all about. And anybody who gets in this field, you better be about helping the other person get to where they're trying to go, because that's what it all comes down to.
So what is the program? So
the program, the organization I work for is NRT Behavioral Health, which is the parent company for the Foundry Treatment Center. The Foundry Treatment Center is founded about 10 years ago as a men's residential treatment center, 11 miles outside of Steamboat Springs. 23 beds, holistic, seed to plate. They're programming in yurts out there. So it started only for men. They'd come to this program. Every case is case by case. 30 to 90 days is the average stay. Usually, or is the usual stay. Usually, it's an average of about 42 days that men stay at. But there was a bigger need for why are we only treating men? So, I'll just read real quick a little bit about the Foundry up at Steamboat. I know you need my mic to be closer, but Foundry Steamboat's Treatment Center is a small, private, and thoughtfully maintained treatment milieu situated on a comfortable ranch in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. Integrated medicine, including medical assessment and treatment, psychiatry and medication management, trauma treatment, individual and group psychotherapy, physical fitness and wellness activities, therapeutic horticulture and seed-to-plate nutritional programming, group recreational activities, integrated family programming, curriculum focused on male identity and addictive disorders and trauma affecting men. So that's what we started on. That was the basis of our treatment. And we still have this clinical approach. It's just now we have another location. So in August of 2024, the powers that be were able to obtain a 44,000 square foot, 73 bed, gender specific, so male and females can now program and go through treatment with us, as well as having a medical detox on premises.
Wow.
So they can go straight to detox, right into programming. If you were somebody like me who went to detox and then said, I'll be back in treatment in 3 days, not going to happen. So this allows them to detox of whatever substance they're on, alcohol, meth, whatever, and then go directly into programming. That's what we have on in the Broomfield location now.
When did that open?
August
August
2024.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And so gender-specific programming,
I've heard his
including
dates.
Thank you.
our dedicated women's program, offers enhanced relevance and comfort. Our trauma-integrated care model emphasizes holistic approaches to maintaining recovery by addressing unresolved trauma and learning emotional self-regulation and development of recovery supportive lifestyles. Most people that I've met that are in recovery probably have some sort of unresolved trauma that they have yet to start working on. It's not individuals' fault that there were instances in their life that subjected them to trauma, but I think it's people's responsibility to address that trauma and start doing the work in order to heal. Yeah. So you can go into treatment anywhere and we can address the addiction stuff, but we also have to address the other stuff that goes along with recovery. Putting the drug down is the easy part. Working on all these things that we've been carrying around that made us sick in the first place is the tough stuff.
Yeah.
And they have an amazing clinical team over at both the ranch and the Foundry Front Range that we dive into it. They're programming for most of their days at both places. There's work to be done in an incredibly supportive environment. The men and women do not program together, so they're in separate pods. They're doing everything separately. And then we have an amazing case management team that, like a week, 2 weeks at the max, once they start in treatment with us, they start working with them for the aftercare. So you go to program, say you're 45 days. We don't want to show you the door and be like, good luck.
Yeah.
We want to give you as many tools as it takes to be successful into the community that you're going back to. That's why we do a lot of step down work, whether that's the IOP, the VIOP, sober living, transition.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, and if it's not a good fit for our program or our services, then we help individuals find the fit that they need that's going to accommodate them. So it's almost tailor fitted to what they need or looking for.
And financially too, because it used to be self-pay, but now Foundry is now accepting insurance.
Medicaid.
Medicaid.
Wow.
Yeah, so that has been able to
life
bridge the
changing.
gap
Yeah.
for a lot of individuals that normally wouldn't be able to afford treatment.
Right.
Raise 1 and 2 are the only raise that we take, but we do accept. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to pull this up real quick. Like, I know we're getting short
you're
on
fine.
time, but
I just love the aftercare aspect of it because that's so important.
it absolutely is. I mean, it's like getting 3/4 of the meal. You have to be balanced.
Yeah.
You can't go to treatment, do all the things.
Yeah.
And then just,
Yeah, you're healed. Good luck.
Yeah.
yeah.
know.
So this is our insurance that we take, which has expanded incredibly as well. So for the Foundry Front Range for the Residential Treatment Center, Ray 1, Rocky Mountain Health Plan, Ray 2, Northeast Health Partners, Aetna, United Healthcare. Foundry Steamboat, Ray 1, Rocky Mountain Health Plan Commercial, Aetna, Cigna, BCBS, Anthem, United Healthcare, Multi-Plan. So we're in network with all these now.
Wow.
Foundry VIOP, so the virtual IOP, which also, by the way, is good for anybody in the state of Colorado as well as Wyoming. So anybody in Wyoming can do our virtual IOP. That's Ray 1, Rocky Mountain Health Plan Commercial, Aetna, Cigna, BCBS, Anthem, United Healthcare, Multi-Plan. And then the Foundry Outpatient Steamboat is Ray 1, Rocky Mountain Health Plan Commercial, Aetna, United Healthcare.
Are they turning anyone away, or are they usually allowing and the insurance companies?
As far as the claim,
Yeah, I wonder. So you're accepting them. How many are they allowing to go through? Are they really paying for?
well, if they're admitted into our program, our admissions team, our case managers for our admissions team run what's called a VOB, a verification of benefits, and if it's not accepted from the from the start of treatment, then I have to place them elsewhere. But we make sure that it's going to be accepted and going to be paid out.
So you have a good.
Well, we're
right now it's in good standing.
even
as
though
far
we're
as them
help-
allowing it.
Yes.
So they're letting it go through.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
Why? I
I-
know you work in healthcare.
I know, because just the insurance part of it. I mean, if it used to be private and for you to go there, you had to pay 80 grand to go there, then, why I do have this skew of health insurance only wanting to cover certain things. And I feel like mental health has been on the low end for them.
Yeah.
So to hear that they're, I just
we're-
want us to be able to promote it and say, not just say this, but be able to be like, yes, Blue Cross Blue Shield has covered this
Exactly.
numerous
Yeah.
times.
So we're substance use primary. So we're not
Okay.
mental health primary. We're substance abuse primary.
Okay.
But I like but you also cover the mental and emotional health of the people as well. So it's kind of like all.
You
It's
can't
everything.
treat
You
one
can't-
without the
yeah.
other. I've
Yeah.
never really.
I know it's not specific mental health, but
No, but
There's
now
a
it's
lot
going. Now it's going to coding for insurance. Is it has to be substance use.
okay.
So that's where there's always a kink in the
Yes.
insurance, and it's how do you word it or what diagnosis code you use.
Well, I have not heard back from that aspect of whether an insurance didn't pay for somebody's treatment once they were accepted. I don't think it's happened. Maybe it has, and I'm not high enough. It's out of my.
Oh, I'm
Nice,
just.
yeah.
I just wanted to ask a question.
She's the nerdy nerd part of it. She loves these like the numbers and the
They're
facts, and
I'm
that's
the nerd.
that's a good. That is a compliment because you always say that
Yes.
you're nerding out.
Be loud, be proud, nerds.
There is always a verification of benefits ran before they can start and admit into treatment to make sure that they are covered with whatever insurance that they are using.
Good. Phenomenal.
Mhm.
I'm just so
Glad that's changing.
pleasantly surprised
But that
because
one,
you had told us that before, but I wanted to get it on air so
Yeah.
it was so people know.
Everybody.
Because
Everybody.
I want everybody to know that it is
Come
covered.
on, come on.
but
everybody.
also the
So-
film that we saw about the mental health facility that they're putting in Eagle was also saying that they were taking insurances for
Right.
that's just mental health. So that's just amazing that the insurances are kind of getting on board for all
Right.
of this.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
slow going, but it is happening.
Yeah.
It is.
Goodness.
And I've seen kind of like this, it's starting to evolve. People are understanding addiction as a disease instead of the pariah that's drinking mouthwash. It's much more intricate than just that. And I think it's being recognized. And whether the insurance companies are slow to get on board, they're starting to more and more. And we want to be able to help individuals out in any way, because we didn't always take Medicaid.
Right.
So it was either private or commercial pay or insurance. And now we do. And it's been a game changer for a lot of folks that probably never would have even stepped foot into,
Yeah, it was just a barrier.
not just us, but other places. I mean, the MAC clinics that are now accepting Medicaid. So it's not a lot of people are paying out of pocket.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
So-
good news.
I'm so proud of you.
Well, thanks.
Yes, you're
I
doing
have an
good
amazing team, and I can't say enough about the organization, NRT and the Foundry. I knew about them long before I even envisioned myself having a role within this company. Never heard anything but good things about it. And for Nikki Bedeker, who is the director of business development, meet me, see an application, have a phone call, a couple Zoom calls, and to give me this opportunity it's been life-changing. I'm super grateful. And I just want to continue helping people under her tutelage, under the other individuals who are doing big things with this company. One of those things, and the last thing I want to talk about before we stop, is a man by the name of Dr. Michael Barnes. So I don't know if, are you familiar
He
with
started
that?
the Foundry, and he wrote a great book because I'm reading one of his books. 'Cause
Okay,
I'm nerdy.
nerd.
You're the one who called yourself a nerd, just so you know.
Well, let me tell you. So you have somebody in your family that in my family, I was the first one to really delve into extracurricular activities. So I often think about how many nights did my dad and mom stay up scratching their head going, where did we go wrong? Like, we gave this kid everything. We didn't beat him. He had food, and there wasn't anything like what the Michael Barnes Family Institute is. And what they are is a family-focused addiction and trauma coaching for families who have a loved one struggling with addiction, because they need support too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They might not. Where do I turn? What do I do with this child that I love, that I brought into this world, who is struggling? How can I help that child? How can I be supported? Right. So this is based on the insights from 40 years of clinical practice and research. The Michael Barnes Family Institute provides psychoeducation curriculum and coaching to help families heal and develop recovery supportive lifestyles. The program makes family members feel safe and welcome and is not blaming or punitive. None of the blaming or punitive. We learn how to have good, healthy conversations, albeit difficult sometimes, right? The program consists of 2 levels of programming, each with video content. So it's a web-based coaching, group discussion, individualized coaching sessions, and group support sessions with other families. Level 1 focuses on educational and lays the groundwork for having productive, challenging conversations. Level 2 helps families begin to talk about tough topics and make positive changes. Experienced therapists facilitate sessions. So for anybody who's going through, who chooses the Foundry to go through, it's free to any family that wants to utilize it.
I just want to say too, like, as a kid, so I've always had addiction and alcoholism in our family. And as a kid, I remember sitting in these rehab facilities, the counselor, the therapist, the psychiatrist, with my parents and my brother and I just sitting on the couch in the corner, listening to all this, what was being said about our older brother, but no discussions were ever had with us after. But we were always in these rehab meetings and, going through these things, but there were no conversations.
Well, there haven't been a lot of services really for except for the individual, and addiction is far-reaching. It's not just affecting the person struggling; it leaves a wake of damage that's just crazy, and we hurt the people who love us most.
Yeah, causing their own trauma.
Yes.
And I love that they're not getting left behind, that there's a community being built for them to be a part of their own community with other people who are going through the same thing that they're going through. And that's what we need. And that's just like what we're constantly promoting, is to build communities and safe spaces and platforms
Sure.
so that you're not alone.
Right.
I love
So
that.
I think this is genius because
Yeah.
it's helping other people within the family unit
Right.
that are greatly being affected as well by alcoholism or addiction.
Yeah, it's and I want the word to get out, because I think
Yeah.
a lot of people have a loved one that need treatment, but then what about the family?
Yep.
And so I want to be able to talk about this. I mean, I just think it's such an important piece of the healing that has to go on. Generational trauma, generational addiction. Like, what do we do with the families? And now we have it. So let me do phase one real quick. Addiction as a chronic and progressive disease, PTSD, developmental and transgenerational trauma, secondary trauma, fundamentals of family healing, communications 101. Each module is designed to be completed in 1 week. Some modules have 2 growth opportunities, one have 3, and 2 have 4. Participants are asked to read a brief article and to answer some questions. One is true, false, one is multiple choice, and one is open-ended discussion. When finished with each module, participants are asked to write a story about how the material and the journey impacted them and their family. Coaches respond to family responses within 48 hours. There are also many opportunities to engage in dialogue with other family members, building community, right? And to provide feedback to peers. So it's all in one beautiful package,
Yeah.
And if you don't have a loved one in treatment, but you still need support, it's still offered. It's a small fee, but it's much cheaper than a lot of coaching programs that you will see. But we want anybody who has a loved one, whether they're in treatment or not, just to at least explore it and see what it's about. And if you do have a loved one in treatment, why not? Why not take advantage of this?
Why not?
We'll put your website on our link, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I actually have a couple links. I have the links for I'll leave those with you before I leave, where you can just post the link and then they can open it up and they'll get all of our programs and levels of care, Michael Barnes Family Institute, and
It's amazing.
recovery saved my life, guys.
And there's help out there.
There is help out there, and everybody that I've met who, whatever their role is at the Foundry, whether they're in recovery, whether they're not, we serve. We want to have a servant's heart with no agenda. We want to see people get back to a life worth living, and there's not every day is going to be rainbows and butterflies in recovery, but you have to be resilient. You have to be in the action state of change. You have to want to learn to live a new life. And it doesn't happen overnight. There's growing pains in recovery. But I wanted it more than anything. And even though I had the setbacks, it just made my resolve stronger. And, that's the only reason I'm here to sit with you guys, is because I've been afforded a new opportunity in my life and a chance to serve my community instead of taking from it. And that's what I want to do.
Well said, Jamie.
Ah, you hear that, Dad?
So proud of you,
dare
my
they?
friend.
Thank
James.
you.
Okay,
Thanks
wait,
so
a couple
much.
wrap-up questions that I
Sure.
have. The family-focused
Yeah.
treatment is web-based.
Yes.
So is that for anyone in the state of Colorado or anyone?
That's for anyone.
That's for anyone and everyone, for
Yeah.
all of our listeners that are out of state. Anyone
Yes.
can do it. It's web-based
That's
family
really cool.
treatment. So this is for anyone, any of your friends, family that you know who want a family-focused help, you can go there. And then what about people going into the Foundry here or the Foundry that's down in the Denver area?
From Range,
Are
it's in
there-
Broomfield.
But there's people that come in from out of state to those too, so,
There are.
right?
Yeah.
So anyone with any addiction issues can get in.
Pretty much. It depends. If they want insurance to pay for it, then it has to be one of the ones that I talked about earlier,
Right.
or they are always welcome to self-pay.
Yeah, of course.
Cash still.
Even like eating disorders, is eating disorders on that list?
I do not think that we treat eating disorders. I think ours is strictly substance use disorder coupled with mental health.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we've had people that have been sober for 6 months, but dealing with some mental health issues that want to come to the Foundry. So we have to refer them out to a mental health primary. If they're not, if their main thing isn't substance use disorder, then they're probably not a good fit, because that's, at the end of the day, that's what the mental health piece, of course, always comes with that. But at the end of the day, we're treating addiction.
Right. All right. Can I sum it up?
Summit.
Let's sum it up.
Let's sum it up.
We're going to sum up James Bakehouse. Started off just a regular kid, did some fun things, finally got tired, finally had a moment. Then he had some bumps, but then he had the warm feeling moment.
I did.
And you left out the story about you going back to school and getting your degree again. He left that out, guys.
Yeah.
But he's
He's in the middle of his.
I'm almost at the end.
just share that
master's.
really quick, because this is
I'll
a big
tell you.
deal that
Well,
you've come through all this to do that.
Back to Jaywalker Lodge, when I decided I wanted to be a substance abuse counselor, I knew I had to go to school. Back then, all you had to do was take 9 classes online, 2 weeks each. So I got my first certification. So after I completed that, in order to get your CAC 2, which is now called the CAS, or Certified Addiction Specialist, Dora changed the rules and said, instead of 10 more classes and 2,000 hours of work experience, you now need a 4-year degree. And not just any degree, it has to be psychology, social work, or human services. I opted, my associate's is in psychology, but I decided to do the human services route because it envelops many different career paths one can go down. So I said, if I ever don't want to be a counselor, I'll always have this. So CMC in 2021 came out, they put together a program, either human services, psychology, or social work, with an emphasis in addiction studies, where you get the curriculum of all your CAS or CAT, CAC 1 or CAC 2 curriculum classes that are needed by the state of Colorado in order to even take your jurisprudence or your NCAC, which are exams you have to take afterwards. So I did not want to go back. I didn't want to take a math class. I wasn't worried about the rest, but I hadn't taken math for 30 years. In one class, but I made it through. I have 2 more CAS classes to take, and I'll be done with that, and 2 semesters, and I will walk with my graduating class in May of 2026. But this is the beautiful thing about recovery. We don't know what's next.
Yeah.
The windshield's a lot bigger than the rear view. So what's in front of us it's
Unlimited.
Yeah.
I know that.
And how old are you now?
I'm 52.
Because this is your story of hope that you're sharing with everybody.
It is a
So,
story of
It's
hope.
never too late.
and we had
go back to
Coach-
school.
Yeah, one of our football coaches who went back. He's
Yeah.
getting a double master's.
Yeah.
Changed his whole.
Was he
so
on
to
your
hear
podcast?
Yes.
I just saw a clip on Facebook.
Yeah.
To
Yes,
hear his
him.
story
He'll be
is
out this
phenomenal. That
Yeah.
he just says, I decided to do this. Or kind of his story was, I wanted to do what was best for Jenny, which was so cute.
Oh.
And so he's like, what would be the best for our family? And still, for you to have your moment and say, I know, it's kind of like finding your purpose moment. Like,
Right.
I know there's more. I
Mhm.
am tired. And like,
There's
you got to the point where you were like, you were really ready to give it away. And that's the other thing I wanted to sum up was, I think in all of our stories about alcohol that we've heard, you finally get to this moment. You finally have on your knees moment, and the addiction feeling and the craving is completely taken away. And we've heard this more than once.
Yeah.
So it is possible.
It definitely is. And, there were a couple times when I thought maybe this is just the way it is. it's that voice, that negative, you know, the devil and the angel on the shoulder.
Yep.
Because the enemy wants to see you fail, right? It wants to plant seeds in your head. I never bought into it. I never said there were moments where I flirted with that idea, but I never was sold on it. There was something inside me screaming, said that this is not your life. You were meant to do better things. So
The good voice won.
there we go. That's the one we wanted.
Good job, Ted.
Yeah. Finally came together.
Well, thanks again.
Thank you guys for
your
having me.
time.
And thanks for tuning in to Healing Unscripted, and stay tuned for future episodes. Thanks.
Hey.
Yay, we did it.
All right, guys.